got another one here. We've got same shirt, different book. This book, I'm just going to go ahead and say that we're doing 2 books today. This book is What Would the Rockefellers Do? And the subtitle here is How the Wealthy Get and Stay That Way, and How You Can Too. I picked this book up for free, listening to Rory Vaden's podcast, The Catalyst, Sales Catalyst. Great podcast. I always enjoy listening to it, and this will be the second book that I've been able to pick up from listening to Rory. You actually find a lot of books that way through his podcast. I've heard about 2 other ones. But this one is co-written with Michael Eisner as well as Garrett B. Gunderson, who is apparently somebody. It says back here he's been endorsed by experts like Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad fame, Tony Robbins, Arianna Huffington, and Tim Ferriss, among others. So that itself should carry some weight. Now about this book, starts off, the guys, I believe it's Michael's talking about how he was in the financial world for a little bit at a younger age, kind of fell apart, took a big gamble with like $4 million, kind of lost it all, came back home, sat in his bathroom crying for some period of time. His family, his wife and his children just kind of picked up and left for a little bit, and essentially I think it says in the book it's either they told him to get his shit together or he said he had to get his shit together, and it turns out that he did through some series of magic. It doesn't really, to me, say exactly what happens or how he comes to find this new way of living, but what essentially happens is this. He goes and he says, hey, how did here he gives a story of the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers. The Vanderbilts kind of lost all their money just by giving it out away, and talks a little bit about the Rockefellers and how they kind of were able to sustain their money and setting up trust funds and that sort of thing. But I think the key in this one is they talk about cash flow and where you can kind of put your money, have easy access to it. You may not earn what the stock market does, however, it's still a safer investment. And that safer investment that really overshadows this entire book is whole life insurance. You've got a guarantee of about 4%. You have access to it whenever you want. Let's say you can also start to utilize it like a bank account where you'd say, all right, well, I've got $20,000 in my whole life account now. I'd like to take a loan out against that, and that's fine. And you can you don't even have to pay that back because that's already money that you've got in there, and it'll be 20 grand less when it comes to your term when you're dead. You won't have that 20 grand for somebody else to have. So actually, it's kind of like a win-win, right? At least in the terms of if you're living right now and you can use it. It's not gone forever, whereas term life, you've got it in there, you can't access that money. And let's say term life and it's not convertible, which means that you can convert that into a whole life. You're not going to be able to have that type of liquidity with it. You're not going to be able to say, hey, look, I know I've got 40 grand in this whole life or this term life product that I've invested in for the past 20, 30 years. I'm not going to be able to get to it. And then if I don't die, nobody gets that money. So that kind of talks a little bit about the term life insurance, and it talks a little about the whole life insurance again. You can have access to it once you've actually started putting money into it. There may be a certain period, and it may be, look, basically this book is one big kind of, to me anyways, it opened my eyes about whole life insurance, but to me it just seems like a whole kind of a sales pitch that ended up in my lap, and I read it. I did learn a lot about it, and I've actually talked to other people about it before in terms of, what are some of the other benefits of whole life insurance. Ones that they do, like I said, you could take out a loan against it that you don't necessarily have to pay back, but you could pay it back, and you never drop the value of it, even, at least while it's in there. You don't drop the value if you take a loan out against it. Then you can pay yourself back. They're talking about overfunding it, which I'm sure sounds like it sounds. There was some other maybe you want to save up and buy a car. You're just basically creating your own bank, and that was kind of the catch line of this book, was creating your own bank. How can you do that? Let's say let's say you're older, where maybe the whole life insurance would be exorbitant. You could take whole life out on your children or use it for your children. And basically how that would work would be to say, for example, I've got 2 younger ones. If I take out a whole life insurance policy on both of those guys, and in maybe 15 years or so, to start paying for their education, well, I'd be able to start taking that money and using money, or maybe even take out a loan against that, and it would be tax-free, and it would not be impacted by any fluctuations in the market. Let's say the market tanks again, like it has, in 2008, and you lose everything. This is fairly safe investment, and it has to be due to the fact that it is insurance. It's just basically, seriously, it's a good book. I learned a lot. However, my whole overall takeaway is that they wrote this book for you to contact them. And I think, I probably should. I would. And maybe I still will. I think I really enjoyed it. I think that if you don't know that much about whole life insurance and life insurance, and you don't have any, then I think it's definitely worth reading and looking into. And bank, that just sounds kind of cool. And then it also teaches you kind of how to perpetuate that system throughout your life, and teaches your children. You could do it even for your older members of your family. It's a worthwhile read. From on a scale of, I really don't have a great scale for this one. Like I said, it really seemed like it was just kind of a big old sales pitch. It did have some really great information. The stories were kind of so-so. Felt to me like semi-half-hearted, but